These are the words of Frida Kahlo. And honestly, they're the key to understanding everything she ever created. Her art, it wasn't about fantasy. It was more like a raw, unfiltered diary of her incredible life. So let's explore how her reality became her art. And in this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dive into how one of history's most iconic artists took a life just defined by unbelievable physical and emotional pain and turned it into this powerful, enduring legacy that, let's be honest, still fascinates all of us today. So where does a story like this even begin? Well, for Frida, it all starts with two really tragic moments that would forge her entire existence and become the raw material for her art. Frida was born in Mexico City, and her mixed heritage, German and Mexican indigenous, was something she was incredibly proud of. It was a huge theme in her work. But her life was marked by physical challenges from the very, very beginning. At just 6 years old, she got polio, which left her with a permanent limp. But in a move that kind of foreshadowed her entire life, she didn't hide it. No, she turned it into a style, wearing these beautiful, long, traditional skirts. But as tough as polio was, it was nothing. I mean, nothing compared to what was coming. When she was 18, one single day, one single moment, would just completely and violently change the course of her life forever. She was riding a bus and it crashed into a streetcar. The impact was just catastrophic. A steel handrail literally impaled her, going straight through her hip and out the other side. Her spine and her pelvis were completely shattered. Honestly, it's an absolute miracle that she even survived. And for the rest of her life, she would live with the consequences of that day. In fact, she had to endure over 30 surgeries. Can you even imagine? A near constant cycle of pain, recovery, and more operations. That became her physical reality, year after year. So what do you do with that kind of relentless pain? How do you even respond to that? For Frida, the answer was art. Her recovery bed literally became her first studio. And her chaotic relationship with Diego Rivera, well, that would provide all the emotional fuel she needed. So picture this. She's stuck in bed for months, just trapped with her own thoughts and her broken body. Her mother had this brilliant idea. She set up a special easel for her and put a mirror up above the bed. So with nothing else to look at, her very first and most lasting subject became the one person she knew inside and out, herself. And this brings us to the other huge source of both pain and passion in her life, the famous muralist Diego Rivera. I mean, look at this timeline. They meet when she's just a teen, get married, divorce after years of just brutal affairs. He even had an affair with her own sister. And then, you're not going to believe this, they get remarried just a year later. It was the classic story, right? They absolutely could not live with or without each other. So you've got this perfect storm of intense physical pain and this wild emotional landscape from her marriage. And all of that became the subject of her art. So now let's get into the work itself and see how she painted her own reality and became a total revolutionary in the process. Okay, so just look at this. Out of about 143 paintings she ever made, a staggering 55 of them were self-portraits. That's almost 40%. Nearly half of her entire life's work was focused on her own face, her own body. So you gotta ask the question, why? And Frida herself really gives us the clearest answer. She said, "I paint myself because I am often alone and I am the subject I know best." You see, this wasn't about vanity, not at all. It was an act of survival, of deep self-exploration that came from all that time she spent in isolation. These weren't just portraits. They were these raw, unflinching looks at identity and pain that just shattered every rule about what female beauty was supposed to be. So you see these core themes in everything. She wove her Mexican heritage into every single canvas. She took all that personal pain and passion and turned it into these universal statements about what it means to be human. And you know what? The world took notice. I mean, the Louvre in Paris bought one of her paintings. That was a huge deal, making her the first 20th century Mexican artist to get into their collection. But here's the wild part. Her story doesn't end with her life. Not even close. Her fame absolutely exploded after she died. So let's take a look at how this celebrated but still kind of niche artist from the 20th century became one of the most recognizable faces of the 21st. You know, during her life, a lot of people just knew her as Diego Rivera's wife.
But then came the 1970s, and the feminist movement basically rediscovered her. They saw her unapologetic art, her rebellious spirit, and saw a powerful symbol of female creativity in a man's world. And from there, her fame just grew and grew until, yeah, she became way more famous than the guy who once overshadowed her. And today, she's an icon for so many different groups. She was a committed communist, so she's a political symbol. She's a feminist hero for her raw, honest portrayal of being a woman. And her fluid approach to gender and her relationships with women have made her a powerful symbol for LGBTQ plus communities all over the world.
And that defiance, it never, ever went away. Get this story. In 1953, her first solo exhibition finally opens in Mexico. She's way too sick to walk. The doctors forbid her from going. So what does she do? She has her 4-poster bed put in a truck, arrives in an ambulance, and celebrates with everyone from a stretcher. She was not going to miss her moment.
She passed away just a year later, at only 47. And her final diary entry, wow, it's haunting. It says so much about the life of struggle she endured. She wrote, "I hope the exit is joyful, and I hope never to return."
Frida Kahlo's life, it just forces us to confront this really big, difficult question that people have debated for centuries. When you look at her incredible legacy, which was born directly out of a lifetime of pain, you really have to wonder, can great art ever truly exist without great suffering?